Hello and welcome to this EUR Web exclusive. I'm Stephanie Rivers. You're watching a Ready to Love exit interview segment. This is where you get the tea from cast members about possible drama behind the scenes. We are multicasting on several platforms, including Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. Now, cast member Blake was said to have 9 lives because he stayed at the bottom of the rankings throughout season 6. Yet every week he lived to see another episode. Now, that is until the one person that he seemed to vibe with got eliminated, leaving him with zero love connection. So he's here to chop it up. Let's welcome Blake to the conversation. Welcome to the show, Blake.
Hola, how you doing? How's it going?
All is well, and thanks for joining us. I Before we get into everything, just wanted to just talk a little bit about you. You went by Blake on the show, but actually Blake is your last name, right? And your first name is Jamel. So
Correct. Blake
why
Blake
did
is my name. Blake is the name that I go by. So that's all it really is to that. And that comes from being in the military. So Blake has been my name my entire life.
Right. So your friends or who in your regular life they call you Blake, so you just decided to go by Blake.
Yeah. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Now, you celebrated your recently celebrated your birthday, so
I
happy
did.
belated birthday to you. And you're 45 years old, and you work as a corporate security officer. At least that's what your bio says. And
Right.
some of the videos that you posted on IG, like this one, is show you giving. You're at the gun range giving the target the business. So, what do you do exactly?
So this actually has nothing to do with what I do on the daily. This was just some target practice. I used to be in the military. I used to work for the government. Um, and this is what I used to do in my former life. Currently, I work in enterprise security. So that's everything on the risk management, cyber side, risk management, cyber compliance. Uh, yeah, so all of this stuff here, I don't do anymore. It has nothing to do with work.
So just happenstance because I go to the gun range myself. What is your everyday carry? Do you EDC
Yes,
everyday carry?
I do. I do. I actually have two. I have a M&P 40 cal subcompact. Um, it's the Shield, and then I have a 380 ACP, a pocket pistol.
Okay, all right. So you grew up in New York. Used to live in Houston, and you said you lived in Atlanta and Miami. So what would you say is the biggest difference between the ladies that you met and dated in each of those cities before ending up on Ready to Love?
So let me start by saying I claim New York and Jersey. Definitely both. And yeah, I've lived everywhere. Atlanta, DC, Virginia. Between the military, working for the government, and just moving around. Um, I've gotten to call a lot of places home. I think the biggest difference, though, from Miami is the culture of dating is different in Miami. In Miami, I don't really see too much, long-term thinking in dating, right? I think it's really just a collection of people, and you kind of date multiple people at one time, and you see what sticks. But I don't know that anybody has any real expectation of like longevity or what a relationship is supposed to look like outside of the fun.
So then that's what took you to Ready to Love. I did see your interview with Rashid, the car guard, and he was asking you, how did you end up on Ready to Love? And you said they actually invited you to
Stop.
the show. Is
Right.
that like a thing now that they're inviting people, certain people? And what was it that they said to you as to why they invited you?
To be honest with you, I never followed up. I really don't know. I know when I got the call, like I said previously, like I thought it was a crank call, and then they called a couple of times and we had the conversation. So I don't know how that came to be or what it was. I just know what my experience was. So that was my experience. I was a little hesitant at first because I'm not really a social media person, but I figured it may be fun. Let me give it a try. Really don't have much to lose. And at least I'll get to check the box of something that I've done.
So you have three sons or three children. One is 20 something. One is like in high school or about to graduate. How old is the youngest one?
And my youngest is 10.
10 years old. Okay, so they're kind of spread out now. So going into the show, it's like the female cast members felt some kind of way about you not wanting to have more children. But
Right.
when parents, when a parent has already gone through the gauntlet of raising kids, um, and three times in your case, it's understandable that you don't want to start over. So
Right.
were the ladies, in your opinion, not understanding of you being in that situation? Is that how you felt, or you just didn't really think about it
No,
like
I think there were probably two women that perhaps had in the beginning had a problem with the fact that I didn't want to have more children. I think it was played up a little bit more than what it actually was for the show. I mean, I think they definitely added some entertainment value to it. But I mean, all in all, we have a couple cast members there who already have children. And we have some people who don't mind, you know, not having children, just depending on where their life falls, right? Some people are still trying to figure it out. So it really just depends on where the people are in their life and what they see within their lives. But I think the only two people that really had took issue with it were Corvea and Morgan.
And so you did you feel like you had a love connection or a connection with them where it mattered? Because before, and I guess this is a good question. When you date people, Blake, do you reserve introducing them to your children for a certain amount of time just to see where it's going to go, because there's no really need in introducing your kids into the scenario if it's not going anywhere?
I mean, definitely nobody meets my children unless, we're rocking and we really have a relationship. But to answer the first part of your question, no, I don't think that I had anything any interest in either one of them on that level. It had nothing to do with them being attractive or anything like that. It's just we're at different stages of our lives and what it is that they want versus what I want. So, we talk about dating and we say it like it's a like one size fits all, right? But we only date the people that are meant for us or that align with our values of where we are in life. So if I met someone like either one of them who said, they were dead set on having kids, I would not want to rob them of that. We just would not be compatible for dating. Might be great friends, could be good people, but just not who's meant to be in my life on my journey.
So now, most people, most women who don't have children, they want children. And you don't want any more children. So that limited your prospects on the show and in general outside of the show. So why not just make it work with one of the
Because
mothers
I don't
already in your
because
life?
I don't think that's a real statement at all. I mean, I think that's an assumption that every woman wants kids. I mean, I've been dating for quite some time, and
Well, I
I
said
think
most. I know all
right.
don't,
Even when you
but
say
most.
most is an assumption, right? I think
Okay.
it's most depending on where they are in their life, right? If you're in your 20s, you have a different concept of what the end of your life looks like than when you're in your 40s or when you're in your mid 30s, right? At some point, you understand that you may want something different later on in life than what you wanted when you're younger. So for me, I think the way that I miss what you're talking about, as in like that's never in my dating pool, is because I'm 45, right? So I wouldn't date someone that was 25, 26, or 27, or someone that was just starting out in life, right? If you're just starting out in life or you're early on in your career, we're probably not going to be on the same, level as far as what we want out of life.
Which leads me to the follow-up. So why not make it work with the women you have children with already?
From my
If it,
own personal reasons. That's it. We're at different stages of our lives, and we decided, what works for us and what we want on our individual journeys. So, they have what works for them. I have what works for me. We get along great. There's no issues. But at the end of the day, everyone has what they want in the end.
So, from what the viewers saw and what I saw as a viewer, many of the ladies on the show said that you had a superiority complex, and your curt communication style was the reason that you stayed in the bottom of the rankings. What do you? What was your like? How do you feel about that? Do you feel like, and looking back at it now at yourself on the show, did you agree with that assessment or not really?
No, not at all. I think a lot gets lost just in the storyline, right? So that goes for the storyline. And that's the storyline that they went with. I respect it, but if that were really the case, then I wouldn't be there, right? It's only one or two people that I actually had an issue with. There were other dates and other connections that I had that they just didn't show, right? So if you look on the boat, I had two gifts. It was for my top two connections, but they still only show the storyline with Suan. Shout out to Suan. Um, but at the end of the day, no, there's just more to it than what you see from what's being presented. So when you say the ladies, I don't think that it's the ladies at all. I think it's one or two women that probably spoke the most and spoke the loudest. But no, that was not my experience of what I received.
So by the time that you, let me make sure I'm we're if you're just joining the conversation, we're talking to Blake from season 6, Ready to Love, and this is his exit interview. Now, by the time that you walked away in the last episode, Mercedes confessed that she had warmed up to you a bit, and that you had built a connection with Suan during the season. We saw that. So towards the end, she was on your only connection that we saw. Like you said, we didn't see everything.
Right.
Now, after she got eliminated, you volunteered to leave, and some people claim that your ego wouldn't allow you to get rejected. So that's why you chose to walk away before you got eliminated. What do
Okay.
you feel about that? Was that really,
I feel like people are entitled to their opinions, quite honestly. If you haven't watched any of my other interviews, I don't really give any energy to negativity. Now, if you're asking me what the situation was, then I can tell you what the situation was. So I had a connection with Suan, and we had a connection all the way through. We had a genuine connection. We rocked, we vibed. We had a lot of interest and a lot of synergy that matched up on the show. And it was something that I took seriously. It was something that she took seriously. With that being the case, and me making the choice and who it is that I wanted, right? I wasn't trying to get to the end of the show. I'm here to find someone that I'm interested in with, that I think I'm compatible with, that I think that I can, possibly move forward with, that I'd be interested in dating and continuing a relationship with. And for me, that was Sue Ann. So once she left, it was a couple things. I didn't think it would be respectful to her, part one, to say, I've done this with you, I'm establishing this with you, and I'm giving us an opportunity, but I'm going to stay here to talk to someone else, right? We already had the filtering process prior to getting to the house. So we knew where each other stood. So, when she left, um, I wanted to continue my connection with her. And that's pretty much what I did. I left, we kicked it, we went to eat, we did some traveling. We're great.
So I do interviews, the exit interviews for most of the cast members if they agree to come on. So I've talked to about 5 or 6 of them from this season. When I interviewed Jonique, uh, do you remember Jonique going on a date with her and
I
being
do. I
okay?
do. I
So
do.
when I interviewed Jonique, she told me that when she was eliminated, she was told by a producer that Suan was supposed to have been sent home that week because she was at the bottom of the rankings. But according to Jonique, you threw a fit and told producers that if Suan got sent home, you would walk away from the show. So they eliminated Jonique instead as the sacrificial lamb. Is that true?
No, I mean, that wasn't my experience. I don't know, if that's what she told you happened from her side, I suppose, but that's not what I know it to be. You got to understand, right? The elimination is unanimous for everyone. So everyone has to agree on who's going to be sent home. So, Blake by himself would not have the power to decide who was going to go or who was going to stay.
Right. But it also seemed that none of the ladies, and when I say none, so let's say most of the ladies had, it seems none of the ladies had a love connection with you except Suanne.
Right. And
And
again,
then,
like I said, that's what's presented, right? So that's not actually what's true. That's just the storyline that they chose to follow. So again, right, we're talking rumors versus what is. So I can talk about what is, but I can't do anything for what someone else said happened or what their experience is, right? So if you want to know what I think and what my experience was, I can share that part. Now, for me, I had some good connections. I had, a great connection with Cynthia, just as strong as it was with Suanne. Really good with Morgan. I'm sorry, not Morgan. I'm really good with Marcia. Mercedes and I got really cool. But the only two people that I really had issues with were Jeffrey and Morgan. And when I say issues, that's more so they had issues with me for whatever their reasons were. And I think this show just kind of played on that, played it up. And for whatever reason, that became the narrative. Jonique, I think Jonique is a nice young lady. I have nothing against Jonique. Even our date didn't go quite the way that they showed it on the episode, right? But at the end of the day, we still weren't compatible. So for me, there was no love lost. Like I said, we're in two different phases and stages of our lives.
so then how is it that you were able to survive? Because, so, I mean, essentially, it's like we know, I mean, I know, and I'm sure other people know, there's some scripted stuff that goes on in a reality show. We know that. But how is it that you survived every week when the ladies were saying
Well, I think I
he's
keep
not?
telling you, I think I keep telling you, and you keep just talking over what I'm telling you. It's not all of the women who felt that way, right? You have two women that spoke the loudest, and you have the cuts, and you have the way that they produce it. But if everyone wanted me to go home, then I wouldn't have been there. I wouldn't have had any connections, right? So I get what you keep telling me from what you're seeing, and you're asking me what my experience is, and I'm letting you know what my experience was, right? So that's essentially what it is. I don't think that, there was some like ulterior motive for production. I mean, obviously there's some cutting, that goes on. Um, and as far as, the script or leaning left or leaning right, I mean, I didn't have very much in that, experience with that. No one ever told me, well, this is what you need to do, or this is what you need to say, or anything like that. Kind of what you see, happens. It's just how they choose to present the conversations.
Okay, so then none of that. So the producers didn't. Well, you said they
So
did not.
did
As
I,
far as,
so to be honest, I haven't watched past episode 2. Um, but I do know that for the Jonique thing, they actually showed it. Um, they showed the process. And for that Jonique situation, when they sent her home, we actually had a lifeline. We didn't have to send anybody home, right? But we had a cast member that just didn't want to use the lifeline. So it really had nothing to do with me or anything that I had going on with production, right? That had to do with the men that were there voting and the particular cast member that did not want to use the lifeline.
okay, so then the part about when so it was just a coincidence that Morgan had that powwow with you around that same time and called you out for how you talked to her about wanting to have children, and she basically said if cancer was a person, it would be you, Blake. That was just a coincidence.
No, I don't think that's a coincidence. I think that was her just riding for her girlfriend. I think that, well, I don't think. I know that they became really cool. They became friends during the show. And I think it was a situation where she probably, jumped on a bandwagon before having a conversation with me over what was going on. The conversation with Morgan, I approached her to figure out what she was feeling. I heard that she was feeling some way, but she didn't want to have a conversation. Right. So at that point, I really, again, I can't speculate what Morgan's position was or why she did what she did. I can only tell you where I was with it.
So, as far as it just seems like because when we were looking at, and you, I guess you didn't see this part because it was past episode 2, but it seemed as if, wow, why would the producers allow Morgan to sit down and just lambast Blake? Just, it was like out of nowhere, like, because that the conversation that she was referring to when you guys had the sit down was at the beginning, like
Mhm.
a days earlier. So then all of a sudden she's coming back around and wanting to sit down, and I think you're a Cancer, and why would you talk to me like that?
Right.
So it just seemed out of place unless there was some backstory issue going on.
There was no backstory, which is why, my reaction was what it was, to just let her have it, right? There's nothing to talk about. If you have a problem, we're adults, we can sit down, we can talk. Originally that's how I started out. I said, let's have a conversation. It's not what she wanted to do. So again, I can't speak on, Morgan's decision to carry a situation the way that she carried it. All I can tell you is where I was and what was going on in my mind.
So then you were there at the retreat when Tony admitted telling Lyndon that if Marcia was still in the building, Lyndon could have Morgan. You were there at the table, right?
Right.
So still Morgan was fiending over Tony, who seemed to have a toxic masculinity issue, but she was quick to call you a Cancer. So what do you think about her selective outrage over
So by
sitting
that
down with
time,
you?
Morgan and I were good, right? There's a lot that just isn't showed. A lot of time, by that time, we were good. When that thing happened with Tony, with Lyndon, she came and she cried on my shoulder. I gave us some advice about it. Um, Again, I can't tell you what Morgan's process is. I can't tell you what her thought process is or why she, chooses what she chooses. I think that we all have what works for us and what we're used to, right? Some of us take it and we grow from it. Some of us stay with the same thing. I think for her, maybe it's a comfortable situation. It seems like she knows how to navigate within it with Tony. And if it's what makes her happy and that's her choice of man, that's her choice of man. I can't knock someone else's situation because I can't call out someone else's happiness. I think it's interesting. I think everyone thought it was interesting, right? I think from the outside looking in, Lyndon looks like the better option, but the heart wants what it wants, and apparently her heart wants Tony.
Now, did you and Sue Ann share rooms at the retreat?
We did. We definitely did. We did. So when we got to the retreat, everybody was running, trying to figure out where their rooms were. Sue Ann and I were already 10 toes down in what we had, so we really didn't care which room we got. We got a room. We actually got a room that had bunk beds, so we shared a room, and we were good. We were comfortable all the way through the process because we knew what we had. We know that we're connected, and we weren't really worried about too many other things.
Sue Ann also, she said that after she got eliminated at the retreat, that she, now I try to do my research. And so I've seen the interview that she's done and interviews that you've done. And so when she talked about after getting eliminated, she said that you packed your bag to leave with her at the same time, but that you had to stay and play out the scene because that's what production wanted you to do.
No, while
Um,
while she was doing her interview, I went and I packed both of our bags. I packed both of our bags. I put our keys up on the table, um, and that's pretty much what she was saying. That's where we were with it. She left, and I left. Shortly thereafter. Told her to make dinner reservations. I would see her for dinner. Did my piece. We went to dinner, and we kept it pushing.
Well, in the in that scene, like after she left and y'all were in the kitchen together, you said something along the lines of, "I need to decide if I'm going to stay or in this process, or if I'm going to go." But it seems like you pretty much had made the decision
Yeah.
to go. So that was just kind of like to close it out
Exactly.
because
That's exactly what it
we were
was,
left.
right? They need an exit, right? So they can't just have her walk off and then be Chuck Deuce and be like, all right, I'm out, right? So we had to, marry the storyline somehow. Um, and I think everyone knew. I mean, everyone knew what our connection was. And you also got to understand this isn't about being voted off, right? So let me be clear how this works. So once someone is no longer available, they ask you, who are you least connected to, or who do you not see yourself having something with? So once I pick, once Suan picks me and she says this is who it is, by default, the other guys are going to say Suan is in their bottom because they have two available options. Suan is not available to them. So because of that, she gets eliminated. And that's really what it is. And that's how the connections work. So it's not like a, well, who do we hate or who don't we like the most, right? You're going to have one person that speaks the loudest that says, I hate this person. I hate this person, with three people that aren't saying anything that don't want the person to leave when it's time to vote. So that person doesn't leave. But what happens is, they're going to play on the loud part. And that's, what happens. So when you say, for me, I was going to leave anyway. No, I had other options there, right? Suan was just the choice that I made, and that's who I chose to leave with.
Well, someone in the chat, I can't figure out their name, says that you and Suan were their two favorite people on the show. FYI.
Thank you.
So
Thank you.
probably that because you don't seem like you matters to you one way or another. You're pretty secure in what you do and say, and that's fine. That's the best way to be. But just so you know,
No,
there are
and the
people
love
out
is
there.
appreciated. I mean, we get a lot of love. We definitely do. We get a lot of love. We get a lot of support, for the relationship and what we have going on. So, it's always nice. But you get it on both sides, right? So you got to take the good with that, and you roll with the punches.
So are you two a couple right now?
You got to watch the reunion. You got to
And
watch the reunion.
I know that the reunion was recorded, produced before the show was aired, before this season was aired, which seems
Right.
kind of odd. Because most people look at the reunion so we can see your reaction to how people acted and what they said about you when you were not there.
Yeah.
Um,
So yeah,
no,
we
go
didn't
ahead.
get the opportunity to watch the show, right? So we're watching the show at the same time you guys are watching the show, right? So that's why I opted not to watch, because number one, I lived it, and what they were portraying and the character that they decided to portray of me was not indicative of who I am or what I look like, on my daily. So I understood, we were going for entertainment value here, and I respected it. I don't have any beef with it. That's what we signed up for. Um, but you do get to build a relationship, and you do get to know all of the people. And by the time you're done airing like the regular episodes, it's probably I want to say 2 to 3 months
Mhm.
thereafter when they come back, for the reunion. And there's a lot that's going to go on for the reunion. There's a lot. I would not miss the reunion. Now, I didn't watch the episodes, but I definitely will be watching the reunion, because there's a lot that goes on for the reunion. But I think it gives enough time for people to figure out what's what, and what situations are going to look like. So yeah.
So, do you wish you could have done anything differently of the two episodes that you did watch and the feedback that you're getting? Do you wish you could have done anything differently to improve your chances of having more love connections?
No, because the connections were still there. The only people that weren't options for me were, like a Corvea and a Morgan. And that's possibly right, because Corvea and I are super cool now. We have no issues. Same thing with Morgan. Like, we're cool. We have no issues. I think just what gets lost is that there's a storyline that they follow. So even the things that were said, that they made sticking points, like my 87%. Um, that was in the context of an entire conversation, right? But they just take that one snippet and they play that one snippet, and that snippet looks like the gospel and the reality, when it's not. We had an entire conversation about, children and homes and blended families, but you just don't get to see that part. So when you say something that I would do differently, no, I can't say that there's something I would do differently, because they were good conversations, and they weren't conversations that instill the emotion, that you get when it's, kind of cut up and seen on TV.
So, why do you think that, or did you ever get a chance to, or did they address? I know you can't tell us what happened on the reunion. Did they? Why do you think production chose to show one connection that you had and not the others that you might have had? Why? I mean, if it's really about finding love, how are you supposed to do that when they are essentially putting together a drama, it seems?
Right, right, right. Because really, Sue Ann and I went on the least amount of dates. I don't even think Sue Ann and I actually had a date. I think they may have had one. They had her do a couple of my like bubble dates for the elimination.
Mhm.
But most of the time that we got together, it was kind of offline, and on it was on camera, but it's just not the story that they wanted to follow. And then I think what happens is they kind of look at the end when they see kind of who's ending up with who and what's actually working out. And then I think they decide from there, okay, going back, that's the storyline that we're going to show going forward, right? Because like I said, I had another connection that was very very strong. Um, and again, if you look at the boat, I bring it up again. Like I had two gifts going on the boat. She and Suan were really cool. And she was another one who rode for me just as hard as Suan did, right? But they never showed that from her. They only show Suan, and they paint Suan as this advocate, who's the only person that's interested, and it's just not the case. I mean, if that was the case, I would have been gone.
So then you said that you and Morgan by the end of the at the retreat where you had mended fences and kind of come together. Um, uh, you're the another person that you seemed to have an issue with or had an issue with you was Jeffrey,
Right.
because she said that you claimed that you had already decided early in the process that she was going to be the person you chose and you didn't want to go through all of what needed to be gone through. And so essentially she said that's what you said. You said no, that didn't happen that way. Did you guys come to some amicable agreement at the end as well?
So there's no beef. There's no beef. I think that what I appreciate about Jeffrey is she's consistent in who she is, right? So, she's gonna ride out, she's gonna ride it till the wheels fall off. So I have no beef with Jeffrey. I wish her the best. I hope she finds what she's looking for. But to me, of um that was a different level and different experience than what I experienced with Morgan, right? I could give Morgan benefit of the doubt because Morgan and I had never been on a date before. Morgan didn't know anything about me, right? Morgan just got this information from her girlfriend. And then she probably felt how she felt, not probably, but she felt how she felt, from the conversation about, me asking her about children. We never really got to the bottom of that. But that's why I say I think it had more to do with Jeffrey. So once Morgan got to interact with me, I think her feeling changed, and that's what drew her to being like, "Oh my God, did you think we would be like this?" and being cool and laying up and all of that, right? There's like episodes where she's like laid up on me on the couch and stuff, but they don't, not episodes, but like some of the camera footage, but these aren't the things they choose to show. Just keeping in line with the storyline. So that's why I'm like, I get it. I understand, what's out there. And I know there's a lot of tension and a lot of emotion over what people have seen. And they're like, Blake, 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 Blake. But, you also have to understand that there is a bit of entertainment value here. And, while these things did happen, they don't necessarily happen the way that you see them or in the context that you see them in.
So has anyone noticed you out and about and said, "Hey, Blake," and approach you? You know how you'll see where there'll be an actor or actress, and
Yeah.
then some crazy fan will come up and try to like
Yeah.
attack you or something based on what they saw. Has that happened?
Yeah, it happens. It definitely happens. And, I get like both sides. I get the people who are like, oh, I was a fan. And then I'll get people that will approach me saying that they weren't fans. And then they'll say, oh my God, you're nothing like, what you look like on TV or how you're portrayed on TV. And you're really cool in real life. And, I've had some of those people go out and, they become supporters for, what I'm doing and through some of the social media channels. But but yeah, no, if I see people, I speak. It's not it's nothing bad. I haven't had anybody come up and like, throw anything in my face or, curse me out or anything like that. 99% of it, I got to be honest, it's just love, right? It's just love. So yeah, it's been pretty cool.
So what's next for you? I I pretty much believe that you and Sue are still together, although you can't confirm that. But
Mhm.
so what's next? Do you for you and what are you working on? What can we expect to see from you?
So, this experience has really opened my eyes to a couple of things. Like from the men's standpoint, I mean, I'm a man. I've been dealing with women for a while. But from a man's standpoint, I never got to look at the man to the left or right of me that was dating the same woman that I was dating. And, it brought up some real conversations. So I'm looking at doing a podcast. I'm actually doing a podcast in the process of standing up called Gentleman's Code. It's already stood up. We just have to start building the content. I guess when all of this is over, I'll start, leaning more on that. But it's really just looking at the positivity of Black men and really trying to promote that positivity that we always don't, receive, especially through, dating and some of these other things, and maybe giving a little perspective to the women from the man's point of view.
So are you thinking of taking Kevin Samuel's place in the
Um, No,
stratosphere?
I love my women. So I don't think I could be a Kevin Samuels. My conversation isn't necessarily with the women, so to speak, right? I mean, women will be welcome, but it's more conversations to be had with just kind of with the men, just to kind of understand what's going on, right? When I look at things that happen with like a Tony and the situation, and we have people talking about red flags and what's acceptable and not acceptable, right? When we have women that would like you said, right? Why would a woman gravitate towards a Tony over someone who's being straight, blunt, and direct, even though women are saying they want straight? So it's more so like that. It's not, I don't believe in putting people down. Even if they're trying to put me down, even if they're trying to salt my name, I still wish them the best, right? I don't have anything negative to say, but I would like to promote that positivity because I feel like it's missing between our people right now within our relationships. And I do think that as Black men, it is okay for you to promote the man next to you, right? If someone's doing a good job or they have something that they should be recognized for, right? If we can hold flowers for the women, we should be able to clap for the men, right? It's just a safe space to have, good conversations with people that want to have an open mind to things.
Well, I wish you the best with that podcast. And
Thank you.
I have started following you, so you'll be posting it on your IG, and then I'll get it and then I'll watch. And one last question for you.
So
So, did your sons know in advance that you were going to be on the show?
nope, no, 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 no. I had to see how this was going to play out first. So not even my oldest, my oldest is 23. So it wasn't until, I pretty much was leaving that I was like, all right, come here, let me tell you something. We can wrap over this and let him watch the show. So, he thought it was pretty cool. He said the same thing. He didn't recognize me on TV because of how it was cut up. But I mean, all in all, other than that, I mean, my kids are really young. Well, they're too young to care about, what it is that's going on this side. Some things are supposed to be adult, some things not. Wouldn't have an issue with anything, from the show, with them seeing anything on the show, but really has, not too much to do with them other than my oldest. So something that he and I will bond over, something that we will, talk about and discuss and, kind of let him know the pitfalls he'll have as he moves forward as a young man. So pretty
Is
cool.
that what kind of kept you in not, you know how, and I know people won't like this, but women seem to be more emotional with their responses and men are less emotional with their responses. Is that kind of knowing that your sons are watching you, does that keep you in check with how you respond in different things?
No, it doesn't keep me in check, but I do try and live as an example to my children, right? So if my son came to me and said, "Hey, Dad, I had this girl at school that just came up to me and, went off on me for no reason," right? I have to demonstrate what it is that I would expect him to do in a situation like that. So it's not really doing it for my kids. It's just, I guess, a part of my values of, what I identify when I talk about masculinity or being a
Okay.
man.
Well, I applaud you on that and getting through, and especially since you were new to all the national attention and everything. And I look forward to watching the rest of the season as well as the reunion. And again, thank you for stopping by, and we'll make sure to be looking out for your podcast and the good things that it can do for dating in the community.
Awesome. Awesome. I appreciate it. And thank you for having me. It was fun.
No, no problem. We'll keep you in our Rolodex in case we want to invite you back.
Sounds good. Sounds good.
All right. You have a good one.
You too.
And thank you for watching us as well. We have one more comment, all from the same person. She says that now that since Blake and Suanna are off the show, she has no interest in watching anymore. But there's always a new season. So as a matter of fact, for the upcoming season, it's going to be in Dallas, Fort Worth, where I live. And the EUR Web will be the promotional partner with the OWN network for the next season of Ready to Love in Dallas, Fort Worth. So get ready for behind the scenes access to new cast members from the new season, special access content, and much more that we're getting ready to bring to you. So to find out more about the things that we care about, you can go to the written version of at EUR Web. It's at eurweb.com. Thanks and have a super day.